In this video, we are going to discuss about the employment accreditation in New Zealand. Who can apply for employment accreditation? What are the requirements for applying employment accreditation? And when you apply for employment accreditation, how long you can get approved? And lots of other information. Hi everyone, as you know then, I am Mr. Sheikh, a New Zealand licensed immigration advisor of Overtip Visa Consultancy in New Zealand. And let me ask you before starting this video, please subscribe my channel if you have not subscribed yet, so you will not miss out any further updates announced by Immigration New Zealand. Now we are here and we are going to discuss about the employment accreditation, all details on my screen sold. And if you want to know more about it or if you need any help about the employment accreditation, please contact on this WhatsApp number and we will definitely help you. Let's understand what are the employment accreditation requirements. So check if you can apply for employment accreditation work visa, employer accreditation and what type. Okay. So who can apply for AWV employer accreditation? So to apply for employer accreditation, your business must be viable and genuinely operating. Your business must meet Immigration New Zealand financial requirements. You must not be a bankrupt or subject to a no asset procedure. The business entity that has a New Zealand business number must have the accreditation. So this is minimum requirement when you are applying for employer accreditation in New Zealand. And plus, you cannot become an accredited employer if you or any key people in your organization that are on the employer stand down list, on the immigration stand down list, or permanently banned from hiring migrants. Okay, so what type of employee accreditation you need? So there are total 3 types of employee accreditation. You can only apply for one type depending on your business and how many migrants you want to hire. So standard accreditation is for New Zealand business hiring up to 5 migrants. High volume accreditation is for New Zealand business hiring 6 or more migrants. Triangular employee accreditation is for New Zealand business who place migrants with controlling third parties while being the direct employer name in the employment agreement. There is no limit to how many migrants you can hire. You can change the type of accreditation later if you need to. You can reapply for a different type of accreditation if your situation changes. You cannot upgrade your application while it is being assessed. So in simple, for standard accreditation, you can hire up to 5 migrants. For high volume accreditation, you can hiring 6 or more migrants. But if you are employee accreditation is related to triangular employee accreditation, it means who place migrants with controlling third parties, then you have to apply triangular employer accreditation. Okay. Next is the employer is a sole trader, partner in a partnership or trustee in a trust. New Zealand must be a primary place of established residence for the sole trader person or at least one partner or trustee. So if you are if you are a sole trader or a partnership in a partner in a partnership or a trustee in a trust, then your primary place of residence should be in New Zealand. Okay. Now let's understand what is the minimum employer business requirements. So the employer must have not made a loss before depreciation or tax over the last 24 months. Or so if you have business who have not made a loss over the last 24 months, then you are eligible to apply for employer accreditation. If you are not meeting this one, what is next option? If you have positive cash flow for each of the last 6 months, you can still apply for employer accreditation. If you don't have these 2 requirements, then if you have sufficient capital or external investment, for example, funding from a founder, parent company or trust to ensure the employer business remains viable and ongoing, you still can apply for employer accreditation. If you are not meeting any of 3 these requirements, then but if you have a credible minimum 2 years plan, for example, having a contract for work to ensure the employer's business remains viable and ongoing, then still you can apply accreditation. So if you have any one of this, if you are meeting any one of this requirement, then yes, you can apply employment accreditation in New Zealand. Now let's understand what is viable and genuinely operating business or organization. So a viable and genuinely operating business or organization is one where it is registered as an employer with IRD, Island Revenue Department, And if the employer is a general partnership or sole trader, or the partners or sole trader must not be bankrupt or subject to a no asset procedure. Or if the employer is a limited partnership, the general partner must not be bankrupt or subject to a no asset procedure. Then your business can be considered viable and genuinely operating business. No, next is viable and ongoing includes being able to meet financial obligations such as paying wages or salaries and all other operating costs and expenses and purchase inventory. So if your business, meeting financial obligations such as paying wages and all other operating costs and expenses such as all bills on rents and all things, then still your business can be considered as a viable and ongoing. Okay, what is next? So now let's understand what is the evidence requirement when you are applying for employer accreditation. So Immigration New Zealand is saying evidence of meeting the requirements set out A to C above may include but is not limited to such as financial statements such as the annual report and profit and loss statements, evidence of startup capital and or funding, a cash flow statement and or credible revenue forecast, contract for work, registered returns, income tax returns, pay returns, bank statements, stock lists, orders, lease agreements for business premises or space. So these all are minimum evidence requirement when you are applying for employment accreditation. Next is remains if you remember requirements if you are a trust, partnership or sole trader. So if you are a trust, partnership or sole trader applying for employer accreditation, then New Zealand must be the primary place of established residence for at least one partner or trustee or the sole trader, and the employer name on the employment agreement must be a key person, such one or more of the trustee or partners or the sole trader. So in simple, if you are a sole trader or a trustee or a partnership, you are one your partner or a key person must be living in New Zealand as an established residence of the New Zealand. Okay, primary place of established residence of New Zealand. Next is the requirements if you have triangular employment accreditation. So there is an extra requirement when you have triangular employer accreditation. AW workers with a controlling third party, you must have a history of placing staff in New Zealand for the past 12 months. At least 15% of staff placed must be New Zealand citizen or residents and be granted at least 30 hours of each week work. If your accreditation is approved, you must meet this requirement during your accreditation period. So this is extra requirement for employee, when you are applying for triangular employer accreditation. Next is settlement support activities. So there are some activities Immigration New Zealand is saying when you are supporting migrants for AWE, you must need to provide this all supporting settlement supporting activities. What are these? So the employer must provide the following information about the local community and services and the employee work related matters to their AWE visa holder employee. So accommodation options, transportation options, including driving and driving license information and public transportation info options, the cost of living, how to access healthcare services, citizen advice bureau, relevant community groups, how to obtain an IRD number from island revenue, any industry training or qualification information and options, and specific job or industry hazards. So the settlement support activities must be completed within 1 month of the employee beginning their employment as an accredited employee work visa holder. So employer must need to provide all these settlement support activities within 1 month. So for the avoidance of doubt, the settlement activities do not need to be completed multiple times by the employer for the same accredited employee work visa holder employee if the information initially provided has not changed. So if you have already provided all this information one time, that's sufficient. You don't need to provide second time when you are applying again, when you are migrants or a AWE holder applying second time. What are the evidence of meeting the requirements set out above may include but is not limited to. So employer has to provide all this evidence when they are applying for renewing their employment accreditation. So copies of the settlement information, communication to accredited employee work visa holder, employees with the settlement information, and onboarding or induction policies, guidelines or plans for their new employees. So this all information you have to supply, you have to provide to Immigration New Zealand when you are applying for renewing your employer accreditation.
What is next? So currency and approval specification of employment accreditation. So let's understand what is the minimum, when you are first time apply employment accreditation, how many months you will get first approved, and how about the at renewal time. So employer accreditation may be granted for a duration of 12 months where the employer is being granted accreditation for the first time or under these instructions, or an employer who places accredited employer work visa holders in a triangular employment agreement arrangement, or where the previous accreditation has lapsed for 12 months or more. So when you are applying for a first time employment accreditation, you will get 12 months of employment accreditation. And but if your employment accreditation already lapsed, expired, and you are applying, then you will also get 12 months of duration of employment accreditation. But employee accreditation may be granted for duration of 24 months, where the employer has previously been granted accreditation under these instructions, and the previous accreditation has not lapsed yet for 12 months or more, and the employee is not being granted accreditation as an employer who places accredited employer work visa holders in a triangular employment agreement. So first time when you are applying for first time, that time you will get 12 months of employment accreditation. But when you are applying for after 12 months, not after 12 months, but if you are applying before ending this there's 12 months, then you will get 24 months employment accreditation. But as I mentioned here, if your accreditation already lapsed, and then you are applying, that means after 12 months you are applying, then you will get 12 months of employment accreditation. So be careful, employer, when you are applying, before this 12 months of applying employee accreditation, you need to apply. Otherwise, you will get only 12 months. But if you are before your current employment accreditation, if you are applying, then you will get 24 months of employment accreditation. Okay, now let's understand what is the immigration New Zealand fees. So fees for AWE employee accreditation applications. So how much you need to pay depends upon the type of employee accreditation you need. So standard accreditation for business hiring up to 5 migrants is New Zealand dollar 775. High volume accreditation for business hiring 6 or more migrants is 1280 New Zealand dollar. Triangular employee accreditation is 4060 New Zealand dollar. So the fee for upgrading from standard to high volume accreditation is 505 New Zealand dollar. If you decline your AW employee accreditation, you can ask us to reconsider our decision. The fee for this is 250 New Zealand dollar. So standard accreditation is 775. High volume accreditation is 1280 New Zealand dollar. For triangular employee accreditation is 4060 New Zealand dollar. And if you are upgrading your standard accreditation to high volume accreditation, then your fees is $505. But just in case if your accreditation is declined and you are applying for reconsider, then immigration New Zealand fees is $250. So I understand there are lots of questions about the accreditation. This is only just summary, but in practically is like lots of other information we have to discuss, we need to provide. So if you have any concern or any confusion, please let me know, and please contact on this WhatsApp number. So please contact on this WhatsApp number, and you can check out our website as well. And thank you so much for watching this video. And I will request, please like and subscribe my channel, so it keep motivating me to making all this type of videos. So thank you so much for watching. Bye now.